Welcome to the BCM podcast. I'm today's host, Michael Searle, here with Donald Bush. How would you combine those names? Donald Bush, Donald Tush.
I thought that was just George Bush. I didn't realize that was also Donald Trump in there.
Yeah, it's kind of the hair does it for you. You'd have to see the hair, but
yeah, you got to kind of get the zoomed out photo here. Well, guys, sorry to say, there's nothing really happening in the world. I mean, the biggest news is I'm back in Texas, and that's pretty much it. So, see you next week.
Yeah. Hey guys, it was good talking.
Yeah, we missed this view of your room, and so we've been living in the outdoors in Appalachia. So, welcome back to Texas.
Thank you. I didn't see Bigfoot, despite trying to see.
Bigfoot's on the West Coast, dude.
Bigfoot sighting. There are Bigfoot sightings in 48 of 50 states in the country. He's all over the place.
48 of 50. I mean, Hawaii.
He tried to catch himself before he started going into like Bigfoot stuff. He was like, "Let me just say."
Hawaii is one that he has not been seen at, for sure. What's the other one?
I don't know. That number might not be precise, but it's close to that. I said it authoritatively because then it sounds better. But he's been seen in, or there are reports of him being seen in most states of the union.
Autofill, I said, how many states? Autofill goes, how many states in USA? 50 or 52? Some people are.
That's probably because some people are wondering about DC and Puerto Rico.
Yeah, some people are fucking idiots.
They have representatives. One has representatives in Congress, so I can understand why.
No, stop it. You can understand why somebody would think that there's 51 or 52 states.
A kid, yeah.
A child, okay.
You've seen these YouTube videos where the guys go on the street and they ask people really easy questions.
Imbeciles.
Who is on the Supreme Court and they say Judge Judy?
Hell yeah.
She's not. Trump should definitely appoint her to the Supreme Court. Okay, well, we're going to be talking about Israel, Iran, because that's everything that's happening in the world right now that people are talking about. We're also going to talk about some things happening in Texas.
Aside from Hawaii. Go on.
Okay, 49. I was close. 48. I said 48. It's 49. We're also going to talk about a couple of things that are happening in Texas in the upcoming elections, comptroller race, and the AG's race. And then I found an article on alcohol consumption trending up or trending down. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But let's kick it off with the big shebang. Okay. I don't know that I need to give a lot of background, but let's say Iran and Israel at war. June 12th, Israel attacks Iran, strikes on military leaders, nuclear facilities, all that stuff. Iran responds, and for the last 5 days or so, there's been back and forth. Reports I saw have 220 Iranians killed, 1,200 wounded, and then Israelis reporting, or I guess officials inside Israel are reporting that 24 Israelis have been killed. No amount have been, or they're not talking about how many have been injured. I haven't seen the number. I don't know if you guys have. And so obviously the question comes, should the U.S. get involved in this conflict between Iran and Israel? And it looks like, I mean, we're already involved in terms of providing intelligence and things like that. It looks like we're on the march to yet another Middle East war with a justification strikingly similar to what we heard in the early 2000s, although I think maybe thinner. And the Trump administration and the people we would expect to be the voice of reason here are sticking to the line. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Therefore, they don't finish the sentence. They're willing to go to any means necessary to stop that from happening. We can have a conversation about whether or not that's likely or occurring or whatever. But I just wanted to first start with, we had some texts go. Charles, we'll start with you. What are your big picture thoughts? Are you worried? I know you were somewhat worried last week or earlier in the week when this is happening. How are you feeling today about it?
You know, it's so funny. When these things happen, they're always so, I would say they're fleeting. It's not fleeting. Obviously, it's been in the news the whole time. But that day, I was freaking out. I was in like three or four different group chats, and I'm like, do you guys see this? And I'm in this one group chat with a bunch of friends from New Jersey who don't watch the news. And they were like, what's going on? And I was like, we're about to go down. Like this ship is sinking. Iran says that tonight it's going to be, what were they saying? That it was going to be, they were going to do something, the generation.
That would be remembered for centuries.
I was flipping out. And then my friend FaceTimed me from New Jersey, like at like 8 or 9, well, 8 o'clock here, probably 9 o'clock there. And he's like, so what happened? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, it's like 4 a.m. in Iran. So like, what did they do? And I was like, well, I mean, I think he meant tonight. And he was like, but it is night. And I was like, but I think he meant maybe later, like after it turns day and then goes back. So clearly they did nothing. That was going to be remembered for generations or whatever. So yeah, I was freaking out that day. Since then, I've kind of taken a chill pill. I'm not as worried. Like I was worried. I don't know. I'm buying the argument, to be honest. Like I feel like I totally understand why we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Absolutely understand it. Because they want us dead. Like and you can say there are people on Twitter saying, well, the reasons are just whatever, but they want us dead, and I don't think they should have a nuclear weapon. The question is, were they as close as they claim? I don't know. Tulsi Gabbard said, what was it, a month ago or during her confirmation that they were March, April, May, June, July. Okay, I guess 4 months is a lot of time. Yeah. She said they were not close. Israel obviously said they were days away. Trump siding with Tulsi. I don't know if you guys saw the interview in the plane when they asked him. Well, no, actually, he's not siding with Tulsi. He said, I don't care what Tulsi said. They were days away. And so I don't know what to believe, but it sounds like they were days away. And I don't believe they should have a nuclear weapon. I don't think it's safe for us as a nation. And if it takes certain military actions to prevent further military actions and encroachment by us, like if it takes, this bunker buster bomb to stop this rather than us sending troops in 6 months from now because things escalated, then yeah, I'll take that trade-off.
So I wasn't expecting Charles to be a war hawk, but that's fine. Here we are.
I'd like to see
his. I would love to see his portfolio and how much Raytheon stock he has. Maybe that's what's going on here. But
I said if we could do one thing to avoid a broader conflict, yeah, I think that's not war hawkish. I think that's avoidance. Yeah, sitting here and doing nothing while they build a nuclear weapon, is that what you want? What's your take, Brad?
We've been sitting here while they're quote unquote building a nuclear weapon since the 90s. So
okay, so what's your take?
My take is North Korea wants us dead. They have nuclear weapons.
Okay, but we're talking about Iran.
Pakistan has nuclear weapons. Are you aware of Pakistan? A lot of people have nuclear weapons that aren't. If Russia has nuclear weapons, they're not our friend. What do we do here? Do we just take out anybody that may or may not have? Israel has nuclear weapons, so I'm told. When all of this was breaking out, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm on KLBJ from time to time, and we were talking about this, and everyone, like half the texters were sort of like, I was saying, like, look, guys, this is not. I don't want to get into another Mideast war. This does not. I grew up with this bullshit. Like you've been telling us for ages, for decades, literally, that Iran is days away, weeks away, months away, yesterday, today, tomorrow, 5 minutes. They're always going to have a nuclear weapon. Well, they can't let that happen. Whatever. And it really reminds me a lot of the WMDs, right? And I'm saying this, and texters are coming in, and they're saying, half of them are agreeing with me, and half of them aren't. And the half that aren't are like, you want Americans dead? We gotta go in there. And what about the Houthis? They support terrorism. I'm like, okay, well, look, if that's what we're going after them for, say that. You're moving the goalposts here. It's either we're going after them for nuclear weapons because they have them, or they're like that close, or they don't. Like, we're not doing it for terrorism. Like, they've been doing that for a long time. What's going on here? What's the real reason? But they've been enriching. They've had, civilian enriched uranium or whatever for some time now for their own civilian purposes. And they've enriched up to 60%, which is, I think not quite enough for a nuke. But it doesn't take a lot of days to go from 60 to 90% or whatever to get to the point of the nuclear bomb. And they haven't done it yet. And they're not doing it. And our very own Tulsi Gabbard, Charles's favorite politician, says that, hey, they're not doing it. But Israel's saying that they are. So what do we do? What are we doing this for? What's going on? I don't want to do this. I don't want to go on a bombing campaign. I don't want my nephews to be called up into war in the Middle East. This doesn't sound fun.
So let's say the facts are what Charles says they are,
Your
which is
microphone's not on.
No,
it's not.
I literally just heard him.
I know, but it's a different microphone.
Oh, you keep talking. Let me check the settings.
So anyhow, and it's really like, there's the same old war hawks. If Lindsey Graham has a hard on for this war, it's not good. He's been begging for this for the longest time, and he's finally getting it. And he is just like, he might finally is his dream come true. He's winning.
Yeah. So I was going to say something, and then I have another thought. Yeah. The moving of the goalposts, that's very characteristic of what happened during the WMD Iraq. Because first it was they were involved in 9/11, and when that collapsed, then it became they have WMDs, and then when they didn't have WMDs, it became
the 9/11 when that collapsed.
The narrative that they were involved in 9/11 when that collapsed, the goalpost shifted to something else, which was they have WMDs. And then when the WMD thing left, it was like, oh wait, but we're going to create a democracy in Iraq and save the people. And it was just all constantly changing justification. And I see that happening here, except for the timeline is much more condensed. It's like we're changing. So to me, that says there is a underlying psychological reason for these people that want to go to war with Iran, and they are trying to find reasons to do it. And that could be the result of years and years and years of propaganda that we have suffered from. Let's discuss the facts in a second. That could be the result of years and years of propaganda. They just want to go to war with Iran, and people don't even know why they want to.
Wait, who are you saying? Who are you talking about?
People that are willing to change the goalposts when faced with evidence that their initial claim is not true. Like, for example, they're pursuing a nuclear weapon. Well, they've been saying that for 30 years. So if they wanted to have a nuclear weapon, why didn't they get one 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago or last week or when the bombing started? Or if they're that close, how come they didn't get, oh, well, then what is the response to that? Well, then we need to change the regime because they are a threat to America and they have chant death to America. And so they just changed the goalposts. It's a new justification.
Are you referencing when Trump said, because I think he said that they need a regime change? Is that, or somebody said that? I can't remember who said that. Somebody said that.
A lot of people are saying that they need to change the regime. So my point was that this is part of a longer campaign that goes back at least to the 1990s about invading and overthrowing a number of countries, which we have done 6 of the 7, and the last one is Iran. They did a propaganda campaign to convince us that we needed to overthrow Iran for whatever reason. And now we're just reacting as a result of that propaganda that's been, not us 3, but people in America are saying, yes, we need to go. And the justification doesn't matter. I'll give you any of 3 justifications for why we need to go to and overthrow Iran. Does that land with you guys?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, are you, so what is your argument then that Tulsi Gabbard, the person that you guys have put so much faith into leading up to this? No, but I'm being so serious because you guys have argued, and many people who supported Tulsi, particularly when Trump looked to her to come into the administration as being a Democrat, said that she was one of the most straightforward people on issues like this. Similar to, well, I don't think anybody really said that about Pete Hegseth or Marco Rubio, but certainly about Tulsi Gabbard. And so is she subjected to this propaganda, or is she in on it now? Is she compromised? Like, where does she fall in on this?
No, I'm talking about the 50% of texters that are texting Brad that say they want to go to a war with Iran, despite the evidence that, well, one, they're not necessarily pursuing a weapon. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. The IAEA says they aren't, or they have no evidence of that. Tulsi Gabbard says there's no evidence of that. We have 30 years of this talk that is evidence that they're not actually pursuing a weapon. Despite that evidence, they still want to go to war with them and are using that justification or others. On the Tulsi thing, she actually put out a video, I think Monday. It's about 3 minutes long, talking about the threat of nuclear war. She wasn't very direct about it. She was just saying, we're on the precipice. We need to be very careful. And subsequent to that, what I've heard is that Trump has he excluded her from the strategy meeting at Camp David, and that since then she has kind of conformed to the Trump administration position on this, that they can't have nukes. But it seems to me, if I am looking at what happened there, she does have concerns about what's happening here, and I'm disappointed in her that she's not talking about it more. And same goes for JD Vance. They're bowing to Trump, and there's a lot of people doing that other than a few people in right media, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and some others. Everybody else is kind of afraid of Donald Trump. And
Well,
so
JD
they're
Vance,
towing the line.
JD Vance joined Blue Sky to fight the culture wars. So he's on a more dangerous front, if you will.
Yes, that's true.
He's on Blue Sky trying to convince the Blue Skyers. I think what do they call the posts on Blue Sky? Isn't it something gross like skeets? I think it is skeets. He's out there skeeting.
Skeets.
I think it is. Skeets. He's skeeting about trannies on Blue Sky while we inch closer and closer to a hot war in Iran. How do you say it, Charles? Yeah. Iran or Iran?
Iran.
I don't know. Part of me wants to believe what you just said, Michael, about Tulsi, because we've seen she would now be what, the fifth Trump administration official who has backtracked, changed their opinion, changed their phrasing on things after public pressure or things like that. So it would follow suit that she's falling in line. But the alternative is she's seen evidence that has shown her that there is something to be concerned about. Evidence that she might not have had access to when she was just being confirmed before the actual confirmation vote as DNI, as head of DNI. Information that she was not privy to that has changed in recent days. Like, is that not at all a possibility?
The director of national intelligence was not read into the most important intelligence that leads to us needing to engage in a hot war with Iran until after she posted a cryptic message on Twitter about the threat of nuclear war.
Well, so you're saying that the message that she posted earlier this week, which I didn't watch, but I saw it posted, you're saying that was going against the Trump narrative. And then she changed.
Yes, I think she got pressure and was like, "You're part of the team, or you're part of the team." Which our stance is, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. They're not willing to say what cost they're willing to pay to achieve that, but they're saying Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. And they said to her, "You're either on the team or you're out." That's what I think happened.
So, as someone who was a big fan of hers, and I don't know, Brad, if you were too.
I mean, I like the pictures.
As someone who's a big fan of hers. You've put a lot of stake in her, and we've all have in different instances, like for people that we believe in. But for her to say, I'm going to go forward with this rather than walk out and, I don't know, whatever it is you could do. I mean, how does anyone justify that if she genuinely believes that we're about to go into a war that is, like, she genuinely believes in her heart? Like, we're not talking about, like, like, I believe it, but there's money on the other side for me, and I'm going to take their money. Like, she genuinely believes, it's her deepest conviction that we're going in the wrong direction, but she's going to sit there silent and let it happen.
I'm disappointed. Yes. I wish she would go on Tucker and talk about what she knows or wherever and try to convince Trump in the public forum or in a public discourse to not do what he's going to do. But I'm disappointed that she's not willing to do that. Or I'm reading the situation wrong, and I'm reading it wrong, and she's not against this and her whole presidential campaign against regime change wars, which was the term she used over and over and over again, which that's what this is. She was lying. I don't see that. I think she's conforming, which is disappointing.
My question is, my second question, third, whatever we're on. Why wait 2 weeks then? I mean, right now, this week would have been when he had I think the bulk of the country, or at least a large part of the country's attention, willing to go along with this. They were teasing a presidential address on Tuesday night, Wednesday night, whatever it was. Why not? No, Tuesday night, I think. Why not do it this week? Why wait 2 weeks when you could have all these people out here talking stuff? Tucker can be out here doing his thing. You could have senators start breaking. You can have congressmen out here speaking. You can have the public perception change on it. Anything can happen in the next 2 weeks. Why wait 2 weeks if they don't believe? My question to myself, though, is why wait 2 weeks if they feel it's an imminent threat? But why wait 2 weeks if everything?
You're asking. That's a great question, Charles, and it makes you wonder, why 2 weeks? What is this 2 weeks? Why is it always 2 weeks? Why is Donald Trump always making us wait 2 weeks? Is this the Kraken, Charles? Are we getting the Kraken finally? Is he going to release it?
Well, he didn't say he was looking. He didn't say he was going to tell. He just said he was going to decide within 2 weeks.
Well, that's weird because the original timeline for this operation by Israel, when Israel was very sure of itself and going it alone, was it Rising Lion? I think is the operation name. Yep. They said it was going to take 2 weeks.
Okay, so maybe he's waiting to see what happens with Rising Lion before he decides what he's going to do.
I mean, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think the likes of Mark Levin might get him riled up. He might start sooner.
Yeah. So here's what Seymour Hersh just put out a Substack. Obviously, you guys know who Seymour Hersh is. Here's what he says from his insider sources. He says that this weekend, he didn't specify whether it was the U.S. or Israeli military will be dropping bombs, bunker busting bombs on the Fordo. I don't know how to pronounce it. Nuclear facility, which is the one that's 80 meters underneath a mountain. That will happen this week. Trump wanted to do it this weekend. Trump wanted to do it this weekend because he wants the Monday morning press cycle here it is.
Let's see. Yeah, it says, oh God, I got to zoom out. I don't know. This is too much. Michael Tracy, decent follow on X. Seymour Hersh reports that heavy American bombing will begin this weekend with the aim of deposing the supreme leader. The White House has signed off on an all-out bombing campaign in Iran. Sorry, Charles. Hersh writes. I don't know. How many people live in Iran?
I don't know. 92 million.
Was it 9 million? Or was that in Tehran specifically?
9 million.
That's Tehran.
Or was just Tehran, I think.
That is a lot of people, and I think we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this, toppling the regime, all right, and then what happens? Like that doesn't work out too well. What is with these democracy bombs, and why don't they work? You know what I mean?
Well, that's what happens when your strategic objectives are all sideways. You're telling people that you want to get rid of nuclear capability, but you're trying to drop bombs to depose of the supreme leader. So which is it? What is the objective? I think the objective is to remove the regime, not to get rid of some supposed nuclear capability. Here's another thing. While we're discussing this, two things. One, the president doesn't have the authority to just drop bombs on Iran. When did we stop having that discussion?
You sweet summer child.
A long time ago, Michael. A long time ago.
You're correct.
I know.
No, the Constitution, yada yada yada. Who cares about that? All right?
That's the first thing. Second thing, which is going to be even more controversial. What fucking business is it of ours? What Iran does with nuclear bombs?
That was going to be my question. All right, if they get a nuke, okay.
There's only one country that's violating the IAEA treaty, the non-proliferation treaty, and that's Israel. What? We don't care that they have bombs. And and on top of that, if you're going to be threatened, who is the only regime that we are opposed to that has seemed to survive?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Russia.
Who are the only regimes that the U.S. and the West is opposed to that have survived?
China, Russia, and North Korea.
What do they all have?
Big old nukes.
So wouldn't not saying Iran should have a bomb. I'm saying isn't the common sense thing for them to do then is to pursue a bomb if they want to survive?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was also going to ask the question, like, is it? I mean, look, I'm not a military expert here. I'm sure there's going to be some TikToker that's be like, "You fucking idiot! They can't have a bomb. Your podcast equipment should be more expensive." Fuck you, right?
That was the fun.
I mean, they did it again, Michael. Again.
Okay.
So, I mean, okay, if they get a nuke, like, I think, yeah, I'm not happy about it, but I think that we have plenty of defensive capabilities to like stop that sort of thing. Russia, we've been pretty much bombing Russia through Ukraine for a very long time. They haven't used it. North Korea, their nukes are relatively new and they really don't like the United States. They really don't like them. And they still have them. They really hate South Korea too. And they're not bombing South Korea. China's not doing it. I mean, Pakistan, I know you love it, Charles, when I pronounce it correctly. They have them and they're not exactly our friends either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I do think we're talking about like a different sentiment I mean, it's just like I don't. Sure, Pakistan also they chant "Death to America" as they do in Iran, but I don't think like you comparing the rest of these, like they're not. I mean, they want us dead. Like they want us dead. Like there's no question about
I
it.
know. I mean, there is a question about that.
Is there?
Yes, yes. I question
Who
that,
wants us dead?
dude. I question that because we've been told forever all sorts of lies. And yeah, okay. Does the Ayatollah? Maybe the Ayatollah does. I'm sure he's not a very good guy, but I think it's healthy to question: do they want us dead? And like, what are they willing to do for it? Are they willing to launch a nuke? Is that something they're going to do? Or that like, what happens when they do that? They blow up New York. That's terrible. What's the response going to be? They're dead. Like every single one of them.
Okay, and we blew up New York. Like I don't. But why do you want
That's
to
it.
come to that to be
That's
proof that they want us dead? Like we have to get a city or like a large city blown up to get proof.
Do you really? But do you really think that if they launched a nuke at New York, or I mean, if they launched it at Houston, let's just turn off the sensors.
Well, given that we are would be a major target. But the point is, why?
Hold on. Let me ask the question.
I know where you're going, and
but don't you think if they launched it, like we would know about it and we would be able to stop it? I mean, maybe I'm just a big fucking idiot, and I'm sure people are going to tell me if I am. But could we stop it?
I think the point is that when you are the president or in charge of a large nation, you don't want to get to a point of having to find out that it's coming to stop it. That's like a very reckless act to wait for it to be in the air or to be taking off or to be being set up to be taken off for it to come to America to then begin something.
We already deal with that though in other countries, and so they say.
What other country do we wait for it to come to America?
North Korea.
What if they shot over here?
What is Iran shot over here?
Huh?
What is Iran shot over here? I'm saying like if they get a nuke, like what happens then? They chant "Death to America." Let's take it at face value. At what cost? What's the cost here? What do we do about that? Do we send in troops on the ground? Is it just the bunker buster and then it stops there? We take out the Ayatollah and like we support Israel and like bombing all of their infrastructure and like killing people. Like Iran is all of a sudden going to love us, and they're going to stop chanting that. If it's about their religion, if it's about Islam, and they hate us for our freedom, like our freedom doesn't go away. I mean, it kind of does. We still have to take off our shoes at the airport, but like
I don't. You got to get global entry and pre-check.
All right, Palantir loser. I mean, at the end of the day, like, is it gonna stop if we regime change? Probably not.
We can argue. Look, I just want to be clear. I want less people to have nuclear weapons. I agree with Donald Trump when he said that there needs to be less nuclear weapons in the world than there are now. However, I'm not willing to send our tax dollars, our bombs, to engage in an activity that is going to be escalatory by its nature, which is the U.S. bombing Iran, when the justification for it has in fact been a complete lie the last 5 or 6 times they've told us, and what they're telling us now doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense what they're saying now.
What argument? The regime change argument or they're close to a bomb argument?
The regime change argument completely doesn't make sense because it's not up to us. It's none of our fucking business who runs Iran. That's up to them. I'm not arguing
in favor of regime change. I've never argued that.
The nuclear weapon,
them almost having a weapon. That's my concern.
That doesn't stand up to scrutiny, and I'm not willing to risk us going and bombing their country to prevent them from getting a weapon that they may or may not want or intend to get. The risk is not worth the potential reward, I don't think. And then we were told the same thing. We've been told the same thing before, and it was a lie. So why is it true now? Because this is the time. I mean, Benjamin Netanyahu went on Brett Baer like 2 nights ago, and he couldn't even say they were within a week of having a bomb. He even said they're maybe within a year. And he's the biggest advocate for us to go in there. So if that's their strongest position, their best argument is be scared. They might bomb New York. Be scared. So we justify any action, or you're an anti-Semite if you don't support us. Like that's what their best arguments are.
Uh-huh.
If you watch, then we'll go to this next. If you watch the Cruz Tucker interview, his best argument is fear mongering. My theology tells me I have to do this, and you're an anti-Semite. That's it.
I didn't watch it, so I can't. I can only speak to the clips that I've seen.
Well, let's move.
Well, let me ask you a quick question. So Mark Levin, he's been real uppity about this thing. Really wants boots on the ground. Like, if you question bombing Iran, like, you're a fucking piece of shit. And here's a picture of him with a dildo salesman, Rabbi Shmuley. I cannot, for the life of me, understand why this dildo salesman is so influential. I don't understand it. Why is he so influential? Why are there so many pictures of like RFK like loves Rabbi Shmuley? And like he had the big back and forth with Candace Owens, and like he's very influential, and I don't get it.
I don't know why he is. He was like good friends with Michael Jackson too.
Well, that explains
it. Do you have a guess?
No, I don't. It baffles me. I don't know. I was hoping that maybe one of you two could elucidate for me.
I don't know, because I never really thought of that before, and I don't really have a reason to. So since you think about it, why don't you tell us
about why these people are like why
someone has a picture with Rabbi Shmuley Boteach?
Rabbi Shmuley what?
Isn't that his last name?
Boteach?
I don't know how you say his last name.
Bo-Peep?
I think isn't it Boteach? Or is that not how you pronounce it?
I don't know. But I just think it's strange that he's a very influential, and I don't know what he does outside of the sex stuff.
He's a rabbi.
There's a lot of fucking rabbis, dude.
Yes. I don't understand. What's your point? I don't get it.
I think his point is that he seems to be very powerful and connected, and I don't know what his profession is. If I take Brad over his word, he sells dildos.
Him and his daughter have an online sex shop.
But is that their only? He's been around for a while.
I thought he ran for Congress in New Jersey at one point, but he wrote 31 books, including the bestseller "Kosher Sex: A Recipe for Passionate Intimacy." He has 2 TLC shows, Shalom in the Home. So he's like a celebrity. He's 2 shows on TLC, 2 seasons. Sorry.
Okay.
But what did he? Well, let's get off the Shmuley thing.
Let's get to Cruz Tucker.
Cruz.
Charles.
All right.
Just so everyone knows, Charles loves Tucker Carlson
and Ted Cruz. They're his 2 favorites. I cannot believe he didn't tune in.
After watching this, I kind of get why people don't like Ted Cruz.
Okay.
I never really understood it. Like, he's not great, but fine. Like, he's fine. But
all right, can we introduce it so that people know what we're talking about?
Yeah. So yesterday, Tucker released an interview with Senator of Texas Ted Cruz, focused on the Israel-Iran thing. For me, I think for me here. Okay, well, let me back up. For me, the thing really encapsulated the debate that's happening amongst the MAGA base right now. It was all over Twitter. There's kind of the more hockey, and we kind of just did that a little bit. Hockey neocon wing. Not everybody's a neocon. And there's the people who are on a different approach in foreign policy. And Tucker was kind of the representation of that. And then I think Ted Cruz or whoever decided this was a good idea, knowing Tucker Carlson's position on this, to go on here and try to persuade the people that listen to Tucker Carlson that Tucker Carlson's wrong. I can't figure out why else Ted Cruz would go on there to talk about this issue with him. And they did a 2-hour debate. I mean, we're going to show a couple clips, but before we get to that, Brad, what were your general thoughts? Who prevailed?
I mean, it's a fucking joke. What? Who prevailed? Yeah. I mean, Tucker Carlson, it was, as someone who interviews for a living, like, God, he did a really good job. He did such a good job, and it was amazing. And I mean, like, there were some like humanizing moments there as well, where like he apologized for like his quirks or whatever, and it seemed sort of genuine that he was apologizing. Like, you know, he's Tucker Carlson, he's a little bit waspy and like, you know, looks down your nose at you a little bit, and he apologized. And it was just, and the way that he asked questions and the way that he pushed back, it was truly like admirable. I loved it. It was really, really good. I'm gonna have to watch it.
And it was one of my top 5 favorite podcasts of all time. I think we'll see. That might be fleeting, but it was pretty high up there. But it's also, he's a conservative or conservative podcaster, former talk show guy or whatever, and he's interviewing a prominent, significant Republican senator, and he's pushing back, which doesn't. The equivalent would be Rachel Maddow having on Elizabeth Warren and pushing back in that manner, which just doesn't happen anywhere else in media at all. Even the Joe Rogan podcast, when he's pushing back on people, it's not. I think Tucker did something pretty cool, pretty special there for the viewers. And I think, I mean, the bigger things that stood out to me was it was just kind of a microcosm of the broader fight that's going on right now. And it elucidated those things I talked about before, the theology behind this drive to support Israel, the scaremongering that they will devolve to, and the just willingness to call someone anti-Semitic because they don't agree with your position on supporting a foreign government. And so I'm going to show, which clip should I show first? I don't know if you have anything to say to that, Brad or Charles.
I didn't see it. If you could show the part about him calling him anti-Semitic, I didn't see that one, so I'd be curious to see that. The clips that I saw, I didn't see the whole interview. I didn't get that same feeling that you guys did. Like, I thought it was I do think it's really interesting how aggressive he was and willing to push back. I mean, he was more aggressive, with Ted Cruz than he was with Vladimir Putin. So I thought that was interesting. But I also found it kind of like smarmy. Like, it's like, even like with the specific question about like population, like it was such a stupid thing. And like, yes, Ted Cruz should probably know the population, but like, that's a thing that you do in an argument where you just want to like throw somebody, like you want to discredit them. So you ask them some random fact-based question. And when they struggle to come up with the answer or don't have it, it's like, well, see, none of the rest of your things make sense either.
I don't think it's random. I think
like,
it's really important.
But like, it's not important to the basis of why he wants to pursue a war or why he wants, like, it's an important thing that he should probably know. But like, if we have 435 congressmen and 100 senators, and if you ask most of them who all would have to vote to approve a war, if they know how many people are in every country that we would go to war with, like, no, they don't.
They should know that, but they should also.
But no, like, they really, like, come on, like, let's be serious.
Yeah, they absolutely should know that. They should know the basics. They should know the basics of the country that they're about to, like, that they're advocating to destroy. And like, because if they destroy it, that's 90 million people. I mean, some are going to get killed, obviously, but it's 90 million people that are going to be either in an uprising or displaced into other countries, or that are going to like really hate America. And like, that's actually important. If it's a country with 1 million, okay, well, I guess maybe there's less risk. If it's China, and also the size matters because of how many people they can put forth. Like, I
understand that it's
how big can their military be.
I'm not saying it's an irrelevant fact. I'm saying the fact that he can't recall it in an interview with Tucker Carlson is not indicative. It doesn't discredit his argument. If you disagree with his argument, you disagree with his argument. The fact he's not able to bring up how many people there are in this interview doesn't mean that he was never aware of it, isn't aware of it. Like, I just don't think that was a reason to disagree with his argument. I actually
thought it was one of the weaker points for Tucker, and I actually thought it was a little bit cheap to just run that clip, because there were so many better moments than that. Yeah, he should know. I knew ballpark. I could have thrown out a number. He could have thrown out a number, and he should know. But it wasn't even really the best moment. So I'm going to play the one about anti-Semitism that Charles requested, and then I'm going to play after that. We're going to play his reason for supporting Israel, which I thought was shocking, or at least his interpretation.
Goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent. Okay, that's a really simple from question. Lobbying on behalf of. It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you a question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Hey, are they shaped by?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes.
The Israeli government
directing them? You want to talk about FARA, the law on lobbying on behalf of someone?
Yeah.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they're not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but
do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. When we're talking about foreign countries,
it's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question: what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, like, I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on of my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions. Which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
Wow. I think that's so interesting, though, that I agree with Tucker in this one. I don't agree with I agree with Tucker in this, but I also think Cruz is making a solid point that there are plenty of people who lobby on behalf of other nations and things like that, and he is always, people are always asking about AIPAC. But I agree. I mean, I agree with Tucker. I think it is undue influence. But it's shocking that he was able to knock, Cruz is the Harvard Law Review editor, and you're able to get him to the point where he breaks down enough to then call you an anti-Semite after refusing to call you that's crazy. That's nuts.
Because they don't. Tucker kind of addresses that piece that you just brought up later in the interview where he says, I have relatives that lobby on behalf of foreign governments, and they say that they're lobbying on behalf of foreign governments. I don't know why we can't say that the AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of Israel. That's what I find weird. Why can't we just say that? And why don't they register?
Well, I think the part of that didn't get played in that.
I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel?
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. Right. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli.
I really hate that part because he's just being an asshole, saying it stands for American is okay, yeah, and FedEx stands for Federal Express. Doesn't mean it's federal, dummy.
Political action.
What does it lobby for?
So,
I want to find the clip where Ted Cruz literally says, when I joined Congress, I joined the Senate to be my main goal is to be Israel's #1 champion or whatever the fuck he said. That's why he became a senator.
So while you're finding that, I'll tell a little story of my frame of going into this, watching Ted Cruz. Back in 2014, I was at a fundraising dinner with Ted Cruz. It was somewhat private, but he had at that dinner, he had advocated and said that one of his goals was to change the regime and bomb Iran. And this was 11 years ago. So for him to then say his justification is they're on the verge of a weapon now 11 years later, and that's why he wants to go into Iran, is not actually true. And I don't believe him because that's not why he wanted to then. He's wanted to change the regime because Israel has wanted to change the regime for religious reasons, which is what I think. And I did pull up that other clip. I don't know if you're having any luck finding the one you're looking for, Brad, or I could summarize what he said.
Well, yeah, I mean, I already summarized it. I mean, he said that he came into the Senate with the #1 goal of supporting Israel. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's what he said.
I mean, I would, if somebody can find it, I'd love to see that because yeah. Are you that's?
I will try to.
He said, yeah, the first reason that he ran was he wanted to be the biggest defender of, or the biggest proponent of Israel, and then he subsequently tells Tucker that Tucker is obsessed with Israel. Well, you're the one that ran for the U.S. Senate wanting to be the #1 proponent of Israel. It sounds like you might be a little obsessed. And his reasoning is, and I'll play this while Brad's looking. It's religious, and we've talked about this. And I'm going to share screen, and he'll tell you why why he feels that way. Share screen.
Well, while you're doing that, yeah, okay.
Maybe better at that.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use the.
It's in Genesis, but so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. And you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we are commanded to support Israel. But number two,
hold on.
I'm not holding on.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel.
We are commanded to support Israel, and what
does that mean? Israel.
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel. Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis. That's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel. Yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel.
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the descendants
God's
of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis? Is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes,
it is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a democratic country that elected.
He's the prime minister,
right?
What?
But just like. America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is
you believe
Israel.
That's what God was talking about in Genesis.
I do, but
that country's existed since when?
For thousands of years. Now, there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70 years ago.
I'm saying, I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
See, like I think again, I think Tucker, like you'd make a good point, but for this like petty need to be like, oh, you don't know where it is in the Bible, so it can't be right. Like
that's important.
Like no, it's really like
it is actually important because otherwise, like. I could just pull something out of the Bible that supports what I want to say and like what I want to do. But if I can't even tell you where it is or the context around it, or, the basic question of that's talking about the government of Israel, talking about the nation. And Cruz responds with the nation of Israel.
I'm not talking about his interpretation of it. I'm talking about the fact that he couldn't specifically identify what chapter, what verse. Like that's not
important.
It's not the utmost important thing. Like if that is what his guiding principle is, okay, so be it. Have a conversation over whether or not they're talking about the government of Israel or they're talking about the people of Israel, which, like Tucker said, I think most people would know and believe that he's talking about the people of Israel, not the government of Israel. But the simple fact that he couldn't say it was in Genesis is not that doesn't negate the argument. Just like the fact that he couldn't suddenly recall the number of people in Iran didn't take away from his argument. Like I just think it's a petty way of trying to throw somebody off and discredit their argument.
I agree, and I think Tucker has. He would be better served if he did that. I think the point that he's trying to make in doing that is that these people like Ted Cruz are making these decisions that have huge proportions, there are huge consequences for the world, for the people of Iran, for the people of America, for the people of Israel. They're doing it in such a nonchalant way. They're not being serious about the decisions they're making or thinking through the consequences or figuring out the details. And they're just, oh, well, the Bible said I have to support Israel, and therefore I'm going to support bombing a country of 92 million people, regardless of the consequences for mankind, because, well, the easy way. The Bible tells me to do that. And I think the point that Tucker is trying to make by bringing up the details, and maybe he's not doing it in a very artful way, and maybe he's coming kind of off like an asshole, is that these people don't know what the fuck they're doing or what they're talking about, and they're dangerous. They are dangerous to us. And they have, as a result of this kind of thinking and pompous decision-making, have destroyed our country over the last 40 or 50 years by making terrible decisions that don't serve us, they don't serve people of the world, and they're doing it without being challenged. And I think that's the point he's trying to make.
And that's a fair point. I think also at the same time, though, that if your argument is that you want to know whether or not he's talking about the government of Israel or the people of Israel, then make that the point. That is a very good argument that Tucker was making, that like he's clearly not talking in the Bible about the government of Israel. It is not talking about the structure of the government, even though, yes, they had governments then. That is, everybody, I think, collectively would agree that he's talking about the people of Israel. Then make that argument. But this like focus on that detail, particularly for Ted Cruz, who it's not as though it shouldn't be surprising that was one of his driving forces. Like everything Ted Cruz does and has done, he always talks about how it comes from his faith. Like he is probably one of the most outspoken people about that. Now, if you want to draw into that and try to call into question if he kind of fully understands that faith, do so. And that's a perfectly fine argument to make. But like, I just think that to do these gotcha moments, I don't understand the purpose of it. I don't understand the purpose.
It shows there's being an
let me just finish.
What he's talking about.
Let me just finish. Because by asking him when he first asked him where in the Bible is that, Ted Cruz says like, oh, I don't know, I could show you. Simply saying like, oh, you don't know where it is, and then moving on is much more effective than sitting there dwelling on the fact that you don't know what verse it is.
And that's fine. We can debate Tucker Carlson's debate tactics all we want, but I think the point here why are we so worried about Iran or some of these other countries? Because they're dangerous and they have ideology, a theocracy. What is that? What is the United States Senate, one of the leaders of the United States Senate saying, I want to support bombing 92 million people because the Bible told me to? What is that? How is that different than theocracy?
It's a good question.
I'm not arguing in favor of, and most of my opinions so far have been on the side of Tucker. I just don't appreciate the way that he clouds the argument and distracts from everything else. I do think that a lot of the points here he's making are legit, but I don't agree with trying to focus on these stupid, narrow little things that don't really matter in the grand scheme.
Well, I don't think he focused on it. He asked him the question and they moved on pretty quickly. But
75% of that clip was about where it is in the Bible.
No, it wasn't. But anyhow, at the end of the day, Ted Cruz is talking about, I think that he's wrong. I don't think that the Bible is talking about those who bless the government of Israel and like just, are blessed, and those that don't are cursed. I think that the definition is a little bit different than that. But the idea that this, again, we talked about this when Kristi Noem said it, God's chosen people. Like, is Ted Cruz going to forsake his constituents because it might benefit Israel because he will be blessed for blessing Israel? Right? Is that his train of thought? Like, oh, I can't do this for my constituents because it's bad for Israel.
I mean,
isn't that the logical conclusion?
I think that's the point,
right?
That Tucker's trying to make, but he's misappropriating his religion because he's misinterpreting what that scripture says. And on top of it, we're supposed to separate church and state, and like you're supposed to make decisions. Like it's great to be religious. And the values that instills and all those things. But when you start governing from a place of I'm driven by my religion, it's actually dangerous. Right. Right.
And I think where Cruz came in when he said that Tucker's obsession with Israel is the problem is, yes, you are right. But the only time that seems to come up about people being driven by like another nation or something like that is when it comes to that. The Republicans are like the only one who say anything about like Ilhan Omar and who she might be driven by and like things like that. So I think that's where his point is that the only time that conversation happens is when it comes to as a nation Israel or as a religion Christianity. Like it does, like I don't ever see like other elected officials, like Muslim elected officials in our country being questioned about what's driving their decisions when they make policy. It's always Christians that get questioned. And I think Cruz didn't make that argument in this clip, but I think and yes, I know people go after Muslim elected officials. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like a broad sense.
I would say that people question the motives of our leaders when it comes to foreign policy when we're engaged in war. We question the motives of our elected officials when we engage in Russia, Ukraine. and that doesn't have anything to do with Israel, I don't think. And we're questioning the motives of our leaders now when we're talking about backing up Israel in a war that I don't want to say they started, backing up Israel in a war they're engaged in at their request, and bombing a country of 92 million people because they want us to get involved and help them, quote unquote, win the war, which means change the regime and replace it with somebody that's, nicer to them. And that's why we're questioning them, because we're on the verge of war. And we did the same thing with Russia, Ukraine.
Well, that's going to be my question. Do you feel that the level of public discourse now is equivalent to what was during Russia and Ukraine? I feel like it's much louder now than during Russia and Ukraine.
I don't know about that. I mean, yes, Russia Ukraine has been huge for a very long time.
But it was initially supported by the vast majority of people because Putin invaded Ukraine, and people like Ted Cruz supported the initial tranche of money that we sent to Ukraine. But I think over time, I think that the level of discourse in opposition to it is as loud. And I questioned it.
I feel like maybe it was. I don't feel like it was. I feel like at times you had people questioning like the Biden connection to like Ukraine and stuff, but like, and then the Trump connection to Russia. But like, I don't feel like there was like a broad, very loud, and maybe there was. I'm not saying there wasn't. I just said I don't like recall there being as high of a level of conversation about the driving force behind, I guess, our leaders' involvement in it. Maybe. I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm just saying.
Hatred of Russia, expansion of NATO into Ukraine, blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. I mean, running the money train. I mean, all those things exist in the Israel conflict as well. But I don't think there was I don't know that there was a religious element to there is. The hatred of Russia has elements that are similar to a religious fervor in the United States and amongst the hawks in DC, but it's not technically a religion. Should be.
What? Don't they have one, Russian Orthodox or something?
Yeah.
They have nice churches. They have really nice churches.
They have nice what churches?
Churches, like they're like big ornate churches.
Apparently they have nice grocery stores too, says Tucker Carlson.
What?
I'm going to convert you. I'm going to convert you on Tucker, Charles, by the end of this.
I mean, honestly, if his approach was a little bit better in this one, it probably would have. I thought he made solid arguments in at points. But if I had to say, based on the clips that I watched, removing the pettiness out of it, he probably did win that argument based on the clips that I watched. Probably did win that argument.
Who's your favorite?
Out of what?
I mean, if it's not Tucker Carlson, that's fine. So I don't know if Tucker Carlson's my favorite, but like, who's your favorite? Who would be your favorite journalist or interviewer or whatever, like equivalent to Tucker Carlson?
I don't have one.
Any that you like?
Anything. Give us an idea of what you're into.
I mean, if I see a good clip, I'll watch it. I don't have a famous interviewer. Favorite interviewer. Yeah.
Well, that's disappointing because you're on a podcast with one, but that's fine. I'll not take that.
I mean, I'm sorry. I don't like. I'll watch like stuff from here. Like, I don't have a favorite. They all kind of like.
Well, who do you think is good? Like, what is this? Why are you dancing around this? Certainly, you read the news. You watch the news.
I think you think I consume more news than I do. Like, the only news I watch is local news. Like, I don't. The stuff I see on Twitter is what I watch. Like,
who's the hottest newswoman in Houston?
None. They're all 50 and up. So
that's not true. There's got to be some babes. Look at them now.
But I don't have a favorite. I literally don't watch this stuff.
So I intended to get us to more topics today, but it's not looking like we are going to have time because we're at an hour. Did you, Brad, find the other clip you were looking for?
I didn't.
From the Tucker interview.
It was hard to pay attention. And also.
Yeah, whatever. I imagine. Okay. Well, you guys want to hit anything else? We were going to talk about Aaron Reitz going after Mays Middleton. We were going to talk about Kelly Hancock.
Well, we can talk about both of those guys. They're still going to be good.
Yeah, Kelly Hancock gets in the comptroller's race. We're going to talk about alcohol consumption being way down in the United States and why that is. But we just talked about the Israel-Iran thing the whole time. Oh, and then Arnold on The View. That was my other topic, which was an interesting. Did you guys watch that exchange?
No, but I heard about it, or I saw something on Twitter, but I didn't watch it.
Brad, you're muted. You're muted.
Charles, you did that.
When?
I don't know. Daniela Guzman from KPRC. She looks pretty hot.
Let's mute him. Bye. All right. We're signing off. Till next week. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share with friends. We will have more topics next week. Adios.
We're going to bring some of these topics back next.
Bye.